The rain poured heavy that night, drumming against the cracked windows of an abandoned house on the outskirts of the city. Inside, two children huddled together, Jada, 9 years old, clutching her younger brother Chris, 7. His breathing was weak, shallow, and his skin was pale. They hadn't eaten properly in days. Their parents were gone. A fire, an accident, no relatives came. No one except the streets. When the door burst open, Jada thought it was the police. Instead, it was a man in a tailored black coat, his shoes untouched by the mud. Behind him, guards with umbrellas. His eyes swept over the children without pity, without warmth, as though calculating value. But a voice cut through the cold. Enough, they're children. From behind him stepped a woman, elegant, jeweled, with the presence of a queen. The mafia matriarch. She bent down, brushing wet strands of hair from Jada's face. "You'll come with me," she said softly. "You're safe now." That was the night Jada and Chris were taken into the mafia family's mansion. The world changed overnight. From damp mattresses to silk sheets, from stale bread to silver platters. Jada could hardly believe it. But her joy dimmed quickly. Chris was frail. He trembled often, his body seizing in fits. Doctors swarmed him, diagnosing a condition Jada didn't understand. Within months, he slipped into a coma. Machines hummed by his bedside. His chest rose and fell, but his eyes never opened again. Jada refused to leave him. Every morning before breakfast, she sat by his bed, whispering stories. She brushed his hair, read him fairy tales, told him secrets only he would ever hear. "You'll wake up one day," she promised. "And when you do, well, run away. Just you and me." But the mansion wasn't empty. The mafia heir, Jean, was there. A boy her age, sharp-eyed, spoiled, curious. At first he resented her, resented the attention his mother gave these strays. But as months passed, Jean began following Jada around. Teasing her, watching her. And slowly, he began standing guard when other kids mocked her for being the charity case. The years moved. Chris remained silent, unmoving. Jada grew into a young woman beside his bedside, carrying her hope like a flame that never went out. And Jean. Jean grew into the shadow of a man who would one day inherit an empire. Their lives, tied together by accident, by mercy, by fate, had only just begun. The mansion became their world. What began as rescue turned into a life Jada could never have imagined. Wide marble staircases, crystal chandeliers that scattered rainbows across polished floors, gardens that bloomed year-round. The smell of expensive perfume, the sound of string quartets during private dinners, the constant movement of guards who treated her and Chris as if they truly belonged. But for Jada, luxury was never the core of her world. Her heart, her mornings, her nights, they all belonged to Chris. He had slipped into a coma when they were still young. Machines hummed beside his bed, tubes carrying air and medicine, monitors beeping steadily. He didn't speak, didn't stir, didn't answer the stories Jada whispered daily. But he was alive. His chest rose and fell. His skin stayed warm. That was enough for her to hope. Every morning, she rose before the household stirred, wrapped herself in soft shawls, and padded barefoot into Chris' room. She brushed his hair, tucked his blankets, and leaned close to whisper. "Good morning, Chris. It's me. I'll be here again today." And every night, before sleep, she returned. "Good night, Chris. Don't forget me. I'll never forget you." The mafia family never stopped supporting him. Doctors came and went, each time carrying folders, machines, injections, whatever might help. The matriarch herself visited Chris often, smoothing the sheets or kissing his forehead. To everyone in the mansion, Chris wasn't a burden. He was family. And that's why Jada stayed loyal. Then there was Jean. At first, he was the spoiled heir, arrogant, sharp-tongued, always trying to prove himself older, smarter, stronger. Jada found him insufferable. He made fun of her simple dresses, teased her accent, sometimes even mocked Chris' stillness until his mother scolded him. But Gene was also curious. He noticed Jada never asked for anything, never boasted, never fought back. She spent hours reading aloud to someone who couldn't hear, someone who didn't answer. And that fascinated him. So slowly, Gene stopped mocking. Instead, he lingered. He brought flowers into Chris' room, pretending it was to brighten the dull space. He dropped comic books on Jada's desk, claiming he'd grown bored of them. He told stories at night, hoping her laughter might slip past her walls. One stormy evening, Jada broke. She was curled in the chair by Chris' bed, tears streaming silently. Gene entered without knocking, stood awkwardly for a moment, then asked, "Why do you keep waiting if you won't wake up?" Her head snapped up, eyes blazing. "Because he's my brother," she whispered fiercely. "Because he deserves someone waiting for him." Gene didn't argue. He lowered himself into the chair beside her and muttered, "Then he'll wait too." The years stitched themselves together like that. Childhood quarrels became teenage glances. Her irritation at his teasing softened into something warmer. His arrogance gave way to unexpected tenderness. They walked together in the sprawling gardens, practiced piano in the music hall, traded secrets by the fountain under starlight. And when he kissed her for the first time, a clumsy, hesitant kiss in the library, away from prying eyes, Jada froze. She thought of Chris, of loyalty, of promises whispered in the dark. But instead of pulling away, she found herself leaning in. Because despite herself, she had been waiting too. The family encouraged their closeness. They adored Jada for her loyalty, admired her resilience, and spoke of her as if she was already part of them. Gene and Jada, the maids whispered, smiling knowingly. The elders spoke of her beauty, her grace, her grounding effect on Gene. Jada's world felt whole. Luxurious, yes, but full of love. Love for her brother. Love growing dangerously for Gene. But shadows always find their way in. Gene had begun to falter. First it was subtle, fainting spells he laughed off, nosebleeds he ignored, nights he clutched his chest as though something inside him was breaking. Then came the fevers, the hospital visits, the quiet whispers behind closed doors. Doctors worked tirelessly, running tests, comparing files. They found something, an answer so sharp it carved through the illusion of peace. Gene's body was failing. He needed a transplant. And quickly. When the results came in, silence filled the room. The only match was Chris. Jada didn't know yet. For now, she was caught in the fragile balance of her world, holding on to her brother's silence. Clinging to Gene's warmth, unaware of the storm that was about to demand everything of her. The mansion felt different. Too quiet. Too heavy. The servants avoided Jada's eyes, whispering as they passed in the halls. Meals were delivered on trays that came back untouched. Madame's laughter, once a daily comfort, had gone silent. But the strangest absence was Gene's. Days passed without him at her side. No teasing remarks, no secret glances across the garden. Just a suffocating void. Finally, one evening, she was summoned. The drawing room was dim, the golden curtains pulled tight against the setting sun. The air smelled faintly of incense, but it did nothing to soften the weight in the room. Gene's parents sat on one side, both of them pale, drained. A doctor lingered in the shadows, clutching a folder. "Sit," the patriarch said, his voice rough but steady. Jada sat, her knees trembling. She had never seen them like this, stripped of authority, cloaked in desperation. The patriarch's gaze locked onto hers. "Gene is sick." Her heart lurched. "Sick? What do you mean?" His jaw tightened. He looked briefly at his wife before speaking again. His heart is failing. He doesn't have much time left. Days. Weeks, maybe. Without a transplant, we lose him. The words hit her like a blow. Her hands shook, clutching the hem of her dress. Then Madame leaned forward, eyes glistening. There is hope. The doctors searched. Tested. And they found only one perfect match. She paused, her voice trembling. Chris. Silence swallowed the room. At first, Jada thought she had misheard. Her brother? Her Chris? No, no. He's alive, she stammered, shaking her head. He's in a coma, yes, but he's still breathing. His heart. His heart is strong, the doctor interrupted softly, almost apologetically. It's exactly what Jean needs. Jada rose to her feet, her voice sharp, desperate. You can't ask this of me. He's all I have. He's not gone. He can wake up one day. People do. I've read about it. He just needs more time. The patriarch's voice hardened. Jada. Look at what we have given you. A home. Education. Protection. Every bill for Chris' care paid without question. We raised you as our own. And now, when our son's life hangs in the balance, you refuse us? You would let him die? Madame's tears spilled as she reached for Jada's hands. Please. He doesn't have time. You love him, don't you? If you truly love Jean, you'll do this. The word love cut into her chest. That night, Jada sat by Chris' bedside. The monitors hummed steadily, his chest rising and falling in shallow rhythm. His hand was thin, frail, limp in hers. She stared at his face, unchanged for so many years. His closed eyes, his still lips. He looked peaceful. Too peaceful. They want your heart, Chris, she whispered, her voice cracking. They say it's the only way Jean can live. But how can I give them you? Tears blurred her vision as she pressed her forehead to his hand. You're all I have left from our old life. You're the reason I fought to survive. And yet. She swallowed hard. He's the one who gave me a reason to smile again. He's the one I. Her voice broke. I love him. And they're asking me to choose between you. The machines beeped steadily, indifferent to her torment. In the hallway outside, she could hear footsteps, Jean's parents pacing, waiting for her decision. Time was slipping away, and she knew it. Jada clenched Chris' hand, her heart twisting. No matter which way she turned, something inside her would be destroyed. For the first time in years, she wished he would open his eyes, just for a moment, to tell her what to do. To take this choice away from her. But he remained silent, and the burden was hers alone. She realized then, this wasn't just about life and death. It was about love. Loyalty. Debt. And a choice that would shatter her, no matter the outcome. The call came after midnight. Jada had been sitting by Chris' bedside, tracing circles against his motionless palm, when a servant entered quietly. The master requests your presence. Her pulse skipped. She followed the dim-lit hallways into the old study, the one room that always smelled faintly of cigars and sandalwood. The fire burned low in the hearth, shadows flickering across shelves of leather-bound books. The patriarch sat behind the heavy oak desk, posture straight, gaze sharp as a blade. Madame stood to the side, wringing a lace handkerchief until the threads nearly tore. Beside them, two men in white coats waited, the same doctors who had tended Jean since boyhood. Sit, the patriarch said. Jada obeyed, though her body resisted every step. He folded his hands, eyes never leaving her face. You know why you are here. Her throat tightened. I already told you. I can't. You can, he interrupted, his voice iron. You simply will not. He opened a folder. Medical charts. Blood types. Heart scans. He slid them across the desk as if presenting evidence in court. This is not debate, Jada. My son's life ticks away with every second. The doctors have confirmed, your brother is the only match. Without his heart, Jean dies. Her nails dug into her palms. You can't reduce him to a chart. He is alive. He is a shadow of life. The patriarch cut her off. Years in that bed. Years of money, nurses, equipment, all paid for by me. Out of mercy. Out of gratitude for a child I took in. His voice deepened, sharp with accusation. Do not forget who gave you shelter, food, education. Who lifted you from the gutter when you were nothing. Jada's breath shook. She wanted to shout, but her voice only broke. You said you loved Chris too. You said he was family. Madam flinched. Her eyes brimmed with tears as she stepped forward. Jada, please understand. I do love him. We all do. But Jean, her voice cracked. Jean has his whole life ahead of him. He leads this family one day. He has dreams, a future. Chris. He's been gone for so long. You know this. Deep down, you know. The words sliced her like glass. The patriarch leaned forward, voice low, final. You owe us. And you owe Jean. Do not mistake mercy for choice. You will sign the consent. And if you do not. His gaze sharpened. We will make the decision for you. The doctors shifted uncomfortably. One cleared his throat. Preparations have already begun. We are ready when consent is given. Time is not on our side. Jada's stomach twisted. You were going to take him without telling me? The patriarch's silence was answer enough. Her chair scraped as she stood, trembling, eyes blazing. You can't. He's my brother. He's all I have. The patriarch rose too, towering, his shadow falling over her. And Jean is my son. My only son. You will not make me bury him while the answer lies breathing uselessly in that room. For a moment, the fire cracked and spat in the silence. Jada staggered back, her breath ragged, vision blurred with tears. Madam reached toward her, whispering, Please, child. Do this out of love. Don't make us beg. But Jada tore away, stumbling into the hall, her heart pounding like a drum of war. She fled back to Chris' room, slamming the door, clutching his hand as if her grip alone could anchor him to life. Don't leave me, Chris, she whispered, pressing her forehead to his. Don't let them take you from me. I can't choose. I can't. Outside, footsteps lingered, silent watchers, guards posted near the door. She realized then, she was no longer just family. She was a prisoner of their desperation. And the clock was ticking. The night bled into silence. The mansion's lights burned low, casting long shadows across the hall. Jada hadn't left Chris' side in days. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't slept. All she did was wait. Then, the summons came. The drawing room was colder than usual, though the fire roared in the hearth. The patriarch stood by the window, back rigid, hands clasped behind him. Madam sat on the sofa, her eyes red from crying, but there was steel in her gaze. A team of doctors waited quietly at the edge of the room, white coats ghost-like against the dark walls. Have you decided? The patriarch asked without turning. Jada's throat tightened. I can't. He's still alive. He's my brother. I won't let you take him. The words shook, but they were hers. She clung to them like a shield. The patriarch finally turned. His eyes were merciless, not pleading this time, but sharp as a blade. You think this is a choice? Do you think the life you've lived under this roof was charity? Every coin, every doctor, every comfort we gave you, it was an investment. And now, the time has come for repayment. Jada's breath caught. No. Please, don't. Madame rose, her voice breaking though her hands didn't tremble. We cannot let Jean die. You love him. I know you do. But if you can't find the strength to sign, then we will act for you. Her knees gave out. You can't. You can't do this without me. But the patriarch's voice cut her down. Consent is a luxury, not a requirement. The doctors moved swiftly after that. She tried to fight, begged, screamed, but they held her back. Chris was wheeled away, his still body surrounded by machines and masked men. She caught one last glimpse of his face, peaceful in its unknowing slumber, before the doors shut. The hours that followed were a blur. Jada sat outside the operating theater, nails digging into her palms, ears ringing with the phantom sound of monitors and scalpels. She wanted to run, to tear the doors open, to drag Chris back, but her body wouldn't move. The weight of the patriarch's words pinned her to the chair like chains. When the doors finally opened, the doctors emerged. Their masks were off, their faces drawn but satisfied. Behind them, Jean was wheeled out, pale but alive, his chest rising with fragile steadiness. Jada's world collapsed. He stirred, his lashes fluttering. His eyes found hers, weak but filled with warmth. Jada. You stayed, he whispered, his lips curving faintly. Thank you. She wanted to scream. To tell him the truth. To curse him. But when she opened her mouth, nothing came. Only tears slid down her cheeks as she stared at the boy she loved, the boy now living because her brother no longer could. She didn't sign. She never gave them permission. But they took Chris hard anyway. And Jean would never know. The hospital lights were too bright and too kind. Doctors declared the transplant a technical success. Jean's body accepted the organ, his pulse, once weak and tremulous, steadied into a steady metronome. Madame's sobs turned into prayerful thanks. The patriarch's shoulders eased for the first time in months. Jada watched him from the edges of the room, a living statue. Jean smiled at her the way he always had, with boyish relief and the soft hush of someone who had almost been taken. You stayed, he whispered as if that fixed everything. She smiled without joy. When the nurses carried Jean to convalesce in a private suite, the house filled with celebration that sounded obscene in her ears, soft music, servants whispering congratulations, the patriarch allowing himself the brief, brittle pleasure of victory. But the room in the wing that had been Chris lay stripped and white. A ventilator, the monitor, a single folded blanket, small proof that someone had been taken. Jada slept badly that week, haunted by machines and the phantom weight of a hand that would never squeeze hers again. Jean's body healed faster than anyone expected. Medication, physiotherapy, whispered encouragements from Madame, he recovered with the practiced efficiency of wealth. He reached for Jada's hand with gratitude and tenderness. He tried to joke, to plan, to ask for the future he had dreamed of with her, travel, quiet mornings, the simple life they'd once mapped in secret. Jada answered with silence, or small, brittle acts of caretaking, a cool cloth here, a cup of tea there, as if performing ritual at an altar. Every touch felt like a theft. Every time Jean laughed, she heard a clock in her chest, the cadence of a heart that had stopped, once, in another body. Behind closed doors, she refused to tell him the truth. To tell him that the father he profited under had refused to hear her pleas, that she had fought and refused to sign, that they had taken Chris anyway, in the night, in a way that made the word consent meaningless. The knowledge lived in her like a hot coal. She could not give it away. People are curious after miracles. A nurse's casual answer, a late-night whisper in a corridor, small anomalies start to accumulate into suspicion. Gene notices nurses glance at charts and then at him, then away. He hears a maid mutter about paperwork rushed through. He finds, in an unlocked filing drawer while getting clothes, a stapled packet of operating notes stamped with the hospital's legal code, and a line handwritten in a hurried scrawl that reads, "Consent verbally overridden per directive." The name at the top, it's the patriarch's initials. It nags at him. He thinks first of incompetence, red tape. He asks the doctor blandly, was the consent ever signed? The doctor's eyes avoid his, sorry splayed at the edges. There were extenuating circumstances. That answer is not enough. It is a fissure. It becomes a seed of mistrust. Gene begins to ask harder questions. He wants to know exactly what extenuating circumstances means. He asks nurses he trusts, some dodge. One young orderly slips and mentions the busyness of the night the transfer happened, how a transport gurney was moved at dawn, how a signature line was circled after the fact. Gene tracks the chain, quiet footsteps in the medical wing, one nurse who refuses to meet his eyes, the hospital administrator who claims paperwork is confidential. Nothing official, nothing declarative. But the shape of a conspiracy begins to form. He goes to the patriarch, politely at first, then with a tilt of steel. What happened to Chris? He asks, trying to keep his voice casual. The patriarch's mask is flawless. What are you speaking of? He says. You have your life because of the family's decisions. Be grateful. Grateful. The word curdles in Gene's mouth now. Finally, a slip. A junior doctor, guilt-ridden and late with liquor in his veins, confesses to a friend of Gene's who then tells Gene. Gene obtains a copy of the transport log and sees an entry, patient, Christopher Jackson, transported 3:12 a.m., procedure authorization via directive. The log includes the patriarch's signature stamp. The revelation is not cinematic, it is a quiet, grinding awareness. Gene reads the name and the time and feels his stomach drop out. The world tilts slowly, as if reality is losing its glue. He turns the paper over as if there might be an alternate explanation written on the back. There isn't. He doesn't scream. He walks the halls, breath shallow, heart wild with a feeling he cannot name, betrayal, outrage, shame. The patriarch's face becomes a carved thing in his mind, practical, immovable. Gene's rage is not immediate self-destruction, it is volcanic and focused first on the people who carried it out. He storms into the patriarch's study with a force he hasn't summoned before. You took him, he says, each word measured like a blow. The patriarch meets him in the center of the room, his expression almost bored. You speak as if you understand, the patriarch replies. The house survives. The bloodline continues. You took my friend, my brother, and no one thought to tell me? Gene's hands shake. Did you ever think I would want to live like this? With his name in my chest. The patriarch's calm cracks, not with remorse, but with the heavy, practiced justification of power. We saved you from death. What would you have me do? Let my heir die when the answer was here? Gene's fury takes the shape of words he never thought he'd speak to his father. He strips the carefully layered illusions of gratitude the patriarch used as currency, leaves the room in a storm. You gave me life by killing another. That is not saving. That is stealing. He doesn't hit his father. He doesn't have to. His posture, his voice, his contempt does damage that robbery cannot undo. After the rage, Gene tries the opposite, the ache. Jada, he says, finding her in the small courtyard where she has begun spending hours, face turned to the sun as if punishment could burn the hurt away. Tell me what I did. Tell me why your face has become the impossible thing. He goes to her politely at first, then with apology after apology. He brings small gifts, slowly coaxing her to the bed where he now rests. He confesses fear, fear of living with pain he cannot understand, fear of having a heart that owes a life it cannot repay. He asks forgiveness in a child's language, "Please, forgive me." He wants them both, the brother and the lover, to survive in the only way left to him, by healing her. Jada listens at first like an automaton. She answers with small, distant words, returns his touches with the polite distance of someone who fears contamination more than warmth. Sometimes, in the hush of night, they talk until morning, about schools, about the orphanage, about the way their childhood smelled of smoke, but whenever he reaches for the place where her brother's name lives inside her, she flinches and the conversation ends. He tries harder, he fixes the window in her room, sneaks rare tea into her hands, plays a lullaby at her door that his mother used to hum. Each attempt is met with small thawing and a recoiling, a progress that fractures into ragged pain. Her acceptance is partial, and the incompleteness gnaws at him. The days stretched into weeks, then months. The mansion became a place of unspoken grief, where every glance at Jada was met with her silence, every attempt at closeness answered with cold withdrawal. Jada's smile, the one Jean once lived for, had vanished. She avoided his gaze, avoided his touch. Every time his heart beat, he felt it wasn't his own. It was Chris. It was stolen. Jean staggered out into the rain, retching against the courtyard stones. He felt filthy, poisoned by the kindness of a boy who hadn't even been given a choice. His parents had betrayed Jada, betrayed him. From then on, guilt consumed him. He lashed out at his father for orchestrating the decision, at his mother for her silence, at the entire household for letting it happen. But no amount of rage could undo it. The heart still beat inside him. He tried to reach Jada, time and time again. Waiting for her by Chris' empty room. Leaving her flowers she never touched. Standing in the rain outside her door, whispering apologies she refused to hear. But Jada was immovable. Every look at Jean reminded her of her loss. Every word from him felt like a mockery of Chris' sacrifice. Finally, Jean stopped trying. One night, he sat at his desk, a single lamp casting light on the paper before him. His hands shook as he wrote. "Jada, I never asked for his heart. I never wanted this. I only ever wanted to live long enough to stand beside you, but now, every beat feels like a crime. I thought love could be enough, but love cannot live when it is built on your suffering. If giving back what I stole were possible, I would do it without hesitation. Forgive me for being born into a family that took everything from you. Forgive me for breathing when Chris cannot. I have nothing left to give you but this one final act. Perhaps, in ending myself, I can return what little peace I stole. With my last breath, I still love you. Jean." He folded the letter neatly, pressing it flat with trembling fingers. Then, without ceremony, Jean took the revolver from his drawer. For a moment, he closed his eyes, listening to the steady rhythm of his stolen heart. "I'm sorry, Chris," he whispered. "I'm sorry, Jada." The gunshot echoed through the halls. And with that sound, everything ended.